Hey everyone, me Kevin here. Here is a comprehensive update on the next rounds of stimulus for, actually in this case, both poorer folks and richer folks, which seems odd, but yes, I kid you not. Presently, there are discussions to reintroduce the elimination of the SALT tax deduction limit, that is, state and local tax deduction limits currently in place within the social infrastructure bill. So we've got a lot to talk about. I'm going to go through exactly the status of the both infrastructure packages, timeframes, expectations, where is Congress, what the HE double hockey sticks is going on, and everything else. And if there's anything in this video that stresses you out, y'all know you can go to Lemonade by going to metkevin.com/lemonade and sign up for life insurance. You can sign up for home insurance, you can sign up for renter's insurance, and pet insurance. And soon they'll be coming out with car insurance to compete with Geico. It's metkevin.com/lemonade. All right, let's get started. So first, yes, it is true. There is talk about potentially bringing the SALT tax deduction limit removal back to the discussion table. Some Democrats have vowed not to support any infrastructure package if the SALT cap is not nixed. Now, for those of you who are wondering what the heck this SALT deduction is, it stands again for state and local tax deductions, and it basically says that if you are somebody who pays a lot of state income taxes, or you own a lot of real estate, leading you to pay a lot of real estate taxes, especially in high income tax states, specifically like California or New York, you have a present limit of $10,000 worth of deductions. That means you can only deduct $10,000 of state and local tax deductions. Some people spend $1 million in California just on income taxes, but are limited in how much they can actually write off on their tax returns, which is pretty rough. This would be a massive windfall for wealthier individuals if it's included. And some Democrats are vowing, again, not to support the infrastructure package if this cap is not included. The removal of this cap is not included in the bill. Getting rid of this cap would cost about $400 billion. The potential solution to offset this sort of rich person stimulus is capping itemized deductions at 28%, and then moving the 401k deduction to a tax credit, so that way people could still have tax deductions. Now that's the rich person stimulus, but what is the status of that negotiation, and how does that affect everyone else, especially people who are not rich, and the other stimulus aspects of this bill? Well, let's be very clear. We've got two bills that we've got to deal with, and right now, Congress is nowhere to be seen. That's because Congress is off through Labor Day until September 13th, when they come back for just 3 lousy days, the 13th, 14th, and 15th, and then they take off again until the 20th. And then between the 20th and the 30th of September, which keep in mind there's a weekend in there as well, Congress, our House of Representatives and Senate, will have to somehow pass not only the $1 trillion infrastructure package, that's the hard infrastructure package, I'll break that down again in just a moment, but they'll also have to pass the social infrastructure bill, which they'll likely try to get done with budget reconciliation, which means they would only need 50 Democrats in the Senate, which is all of them, with Kamala Harris as a tiebreaker, and almost all of the Democrats in the House of Representatives. So this means they're walking a very, very, very fine line with that social infrastructure package, and they're going to have to address the federal budget and potentially raising the debt ceiling, because the United States Treasury has already told us, in fact, it's on their website, that if the debt ceiling isn't raised, the United States may no longer be able to make their payments as soon as the middle of October or early November. And I'm not sure what's more concerning, that they don't know when they're going to run out of money, or the fact that they're going to run out of money. It's all a disaster. But anyway, the stakes are very, very high for these infrastructure packages. We already know the $1 trillion package has passed the Senate, and now we're talking about this social infrastructure bill. And quite frankly, I think the easiest way to try to outline exactly where we stand in all of this mess is just to draw a quick little picture, because let's be real, between you and I, and anyone else listening, it's a little complicated. Let's take a quick little look over here at the iPad, okay? Here's how it's gonna work. So, right now, we've got a $1 trillion bill. This has already passed the Senate. You actually had enough senators to pass this bill. It was around 68, 69 senators who passed this bill, to where budget reconciliation, which the Democrats only have one more opportunity to use, was not necessary for the $1 trillion infrastructure package. So the $1 trillion hard infrastructure package that includes money for a whole lot of things, that's already been passed by the Senate. Just to give you a quick preview, that's $66 billion for railroads. There's also a line in there that the bill encourages more food and beverage services on Amtrak routes, even if Amtrak loses money doing that. Yeah, that's written into law, or in this bill. So soon to be written into law. Power grid gets $65 billion, broadband gets $65 billion, water and pipes $55 billion, cyber resilience $47 billion, $39 billion for public transit, airports $25 billion, remediation for capping oil wells, cleaning up mines, so on, $21 million, ports $17 billion, safety $11 billion, Western water infrastructure, we need that out here in California, $8 billion, EV charging stations $7.5 billion, electric school buses $7.5 billion. Whew, it's a lot of hard infrastructure here. But let's go ahead and head back to our outline here of where we stand with these actual bills. So we got the $1 trillion package passed in the Senate. This is the hard package, right? Now we've got to go on over to the House of Representatives, and this has not passed the House of Representatives yet. So we've still got some work to do. Now, we are expecting a vote to be held on the 27th of September for specifically this hard infrastructure bill in the House of Representatives. But Nancy Pelosi has been pretty motivated, especially with her progressive Democrats, to kind of sit on this hard infrastructure bill until the soft infrastructure bill is negotiated. This is the $3.5 trillion infrastructure plan. It's the soft infrastructure plan. We'll talk about what's in it in just a moment. The SALT tax deductions, by the way, are being negotiated in this soft infrastructure bill. I'll share more of what's in this in a moment. But this bill has not yet passed the Senate. We actually have kind of like a half, or like maybe more like this part of a check mark. See, like if this is a check mark, we kind of have like that passed in the House, because they just passed an outline of roughly what they want in the soft infrastructure package. And because this is an appropriations measure and a budget measure, it's got to start in the House. So really, they just kicked it over to the Senate. Now the Senate is likely to negotiate the $3.5 trillion package. Then, if the Senate checks it off, they can send it over to the House for a vote. But remember, folks, right now we do not have a $3.5 trillion infrastructure package. We have an idea of a $3.5 trillion infrastructure package and some rough suggestions as to what may be included in it, which again I'll go through in a moment. But I have no idea how between now, September 1st, and September 20th, they're going to come up with a plan to somehow negotiate and actually get this bill done by the end of the month. I just don't see that happening. I've been around the block too many times with these negotiations, and everything ends up taking longer, especially since Congress is off until the 13th, only to come back for 3 days. The Senate comes back to work for 3 days. I doubt they're going to get this bill done in 3 days. And then to come back to negotiate it on the 20th, which is crazy. But anyway, the goal is, or Nancy Pelosi's hope, is that the Senate passes, and I'm going to make this orange since we don't have this done yet, passes the bill in the Senate, kicks it over to the House. They can pass the $3.5 trillion soft infrastructure package along party lines. Likely, it'll get passed along party lines in the Senate, likely with 50 votes over here. But they can only lose, that's AOC's financial disclosure from a different video. Over here, they can only lose a few seats, so they got to get, I'm going to say, almost all Democrats on board over here. They can only lose a handful here, 2 or 3, and then we're starting to get in trouble in terms of actually seeing this happen. So almost got to get all of the Democrats on board here. Then the House is, if they get what they want over here, then Nancy Pelosi and the House expect to pass the hard infrastructure package, and then we'll have both really big packages available. All right, but we are nowhere near that right now again, so let's go ahead and back up. So this is where we stand right now, and you kind of see where we have to get. Now, what is being talked about in this social infrastructure bill. We keep talking about infrastructure, but it's been so complicated to keep these two things separate. So what's in the $3.5 trillion bill? Well, probably inflation, but I think that's for a different video. This particular plan has $300 billion of expansion to Medicare. Medicare potentially to cover dental, vision, hearing under the spending plan. Eligibility age currently at 65 for Medicare might even be lower. Biden has previously suggested 60, but the exact age is not known. Potentially universal preschool, paid family leave, federal support for childcare and elder care, 2 years of free community college, pushing utilities to generate at least 80% of the nation's electricity from clean sources by the end of the decade, and potentially a longer or extension to that child tax credit, where you're receiving $250 if you're within income thresholds. Well, you're receiving $250 per child under 18 years old, or $300 per child under 6 years old per month. Now, keep in mind, these are ideas right now, but guess what Congress is doing while they're not in office or on vacation, as we sometimes like to say? Well, they are presently, very likely, dining and whining with lobbyists who are helping write the bill for them. Yes, that's actually what happens. You oftentimes have lobbyists offer to write these massive infrastructure bills and write different parts of them. And basically, it's kind of like somebody comes up with, hey, I want these 20 pages in. Hey, I want these 60 pages in. Hey, I want these 5 pages in. And a bill comes together as really just a giant bundle of all of these different pages. So that's why we end up getting these like 2,000 page bills. People are like, man, who sits there and writes 2,000 pages? Nobody. You have a bunch of different lobbyists who offer to write 20 pages at a time each. And these are all corporations that try to sneak in loopholes and get their representatives to go, this is good, right? This is good. This is what you want, right? And they slide it in. It's all a really messy and kind of disgusting business. I have learned a lot since May about how bizarre the whole process is because, well, you probably know I'm running for governor in California, and it's been it's been enlightening. But anyway, hey, we're doing well. Another poll came out today showing at 22% for recall votes. Let's go. That's why, 22%, we could win with that out in California. That's great if Newsom gets recalled. But anyway, so, yeah, basically, lobbyists are going to be pushing to water down these tax increases. I'm sure there are going to be other lobbyists who are trying to, get other provisions in. We're going to see this potential rich person stimulus, the SALT tax deduction. I'm going to be very transparent here. I would love that. I am being entirely transparent because I own a lot of real estate. This benefits a lot of people in real estate. I also pay a lot of money to California in income taxes, and I would love to pay less. So, obviously, we'll see what happens, but I'm more interested, not in myself so much, that doesn't matter so much to me. Financially, it's just a number. I'm more interested to see if we're going to get some more of these social infrastructure bills for other folks, especially those in need, because I'm all for supporting folks in need. I've personally not seen anything about student debt in here or trying to facilitate rental payments, like rent relief payments. That has just been a complete cluster. They've only gotten about 10% out, which is just disgraceful and disgusting. But anyway, the infrastructure package will be partially paid for by tightening enforcement on cryptocurrencies and basically taxing cryptocurrency gains. There are going to be some complications here for miners and companies to be determined. I'm sure there'll be some amendments over here. Then it's also worth noting that there's talk about spending $125 million to, quote, test the feasibility of a road usage fee, kind of like a per mile tax. They're going to spend $125 million to think about if they want that tax. Yeah, okay. Possibly also raising the marginal tax rate for wealthier people to 39.6%. So it's kind of like a give and take there for rich people, I suppose. Increasing capital gains taxes. Well, there you go again. If your income's over $1 million, you may have a little bit more of a little bump there on capital gains, especially long-term capital gains, bumping that to 39.6%, plus the Obamacare surcharge on top of that of 3.8%, which means you would be paying a federal rate on long-term capital gains over $1 million of 43.4%. Which is almost half of it. There's also talk about potentially getting rid of the 1031 tax deferred exchange, removing the stepped up tax basis for estates when folks die and pass to their heirs appreciated property at a new stepped up tax basis, which basically means that heir gets to save a buttload of money in taxes. And Democrats are also eyeing compliance to raise revenue from households basically earning more than $400,000 per year by calling for more reporting to the IRS and more fraudulent inspections of tax returns or inspections for fraud, potentially more audits. There's also talk about potentially even raising the corporate tax rate, which you can expect lobbyists will be very busy dealing with. So there you go, folks. If you found any of this stressful, well, like I said, go to metkevin.com/lemonade. Thank you so very much for watching. It was a blast. And folks, it's good to be back. We'll see you in the next one.